Louie Louie is a song that was written in the 1950s by a guy named Richard Berry. Uh, it's covered a lot of times, but the most popular version is by the Kingsmen, which came out in the 60s. That's the one you've probably heard, and that's the one that had the controversy about where the songs explicit. They weren't, but because the Kingsmen cover was so unintelligible, a lot of people thought it was, and the FBI even investigated. Anyway, I have about this much interest in rock and roll music, so beyond what I've just said, if you want to do any research, take it online. There's actually a wealth of information about the song Louie Louie and all the myriad of covers. I'm only interested in the hip-hop covers. So we're starting off right here, not really a cover, but 1987's Traveling at the Speed of Thought by the Ultramagnetic MCs. And if you notice by the label and the sleeve, this is a repress. This originally came out in 1987, the repress from 1997 when Next Plateau was put a lot of the Ultramagnetic stuff back out on vinyl. So it's not really a cover of Louie Louie, but it certainly samples it liberally. Now, this may not be the version of Traveling at the Speed of Thought that you're familiar with. It's certainly not the version that's on the album. I'm just going to give you a soundbite of it, and then we'll come back and discuss it a little more. Alright, so that's the original version of Traveling at the Speed of Thought. Obviously using a lot of Louie Louie there. You've got the dub version as the next track. And I don't want to get too much into the B-sides and stuff. I want to keep this on Louie Louie, but just real quick. MC's Ultra Part 2 is the exclusive vinyl B-side, and the B-Boy bonus breaks, which would be bonus breaks from Ultra Part 2. So yeah, this is not at all the version on the album. Not lyrically, not instrumentally, not anything. And it's definitely not as good. That whole kind of, shout raps, both MCs doing their vocals in unison. It's interesting, though. It's kind of cool, scratching up the beat kind of raw. But that's certainly the first use of Louie Louie on wax. But we now go into a much more famous cover. The Fat Boys, Louie Louie. This came out in 1988 on Mercury. This was on their fifth album, Coming Back Hard Again. It was the third single off that album. This one was pretty limited as a single. It came out on vinyl, but that's about it. There was no video or anything. At that point, I think that album had kind of run its course. Now, what's interesting about this is is not strictly a cover either. In fact, none of them are really covers in the sense of just plain doing the Louie Louie lyrics as a rap version. But they rap about the song. They talk about the history of the song. Especially they talk about the controversy of the explicit lyrics in rather a fun way where only Buff Love is the only guy who can understand the Kingsman version. So I'm going to play you a sample of this. But before I do, I'll just point out that there's two versions on here, the 7-inch and the 12-inch version. Neither one are the album versions, though the 7-inch version is pretty close to the album version. So I'll start out with that. So clearly, a lot of what's fun about this is just letting Buff Love go nuts covering the song, and some decent quality rock and roll style production that obviously uses a lot of the Kingsman version. Um, Now I'm going to play a bit of the 12-inch version. It's extended, but beyond that, they've clearly gone a bit overboard with the remixing. And I'll just play you the intro, and I think just from that, you'll be able to hear and get a sense of sort of what they've done. Anyway, so at some points it does sound much more like the album version, like you just heard it start to go into, but it then does go into more of those kind of crazy, totally broken down, breakdowns. So that remix was done by the Latin Rascals, who did a lot of Fat Boy stuff. It's interesting. I would certainly stick with the album version or the 7-inch version, though. Again, real quick, just to touch on the B-side, they've got their album track, All Day Lover, and again, they've got a 12-inch and 7-inch version of that. In other words, an extended, slightly remixed version and a 7-inch version closer to the album. It's a love song, so it's probably not a fan favorite. Although I have to say, at least in their defense, that the Fat Boys, as far as token love songs go, had some of the best. Probably because they were sort of working with more pop and rock producers who were more inclined towards that sort of thing. At least once they signed to Mercury, their past Sutra days.